In a highly anticipated live debate, legendary actor Robert De Niro and outspoken commentator Bill Maher faced off in what quickly turned into one of the most intense and unforgettable confrontations ever broadcast. The topic was controversial, the stakes were high, and the emotions ran hotter than anyone expected. What started as a respectful exchange rapidly spiraled into a heated battle of wits and words that stunned the audience and shook the studio. What could have sparked such a dramatic showdown? How did De Niro manage to completely shut down Maher in front of millions of viewers? This story unpacks every shocking moment and reaction from that explosive night. Make sure to like and subscribe to catch every detail of this unforgettable event. The studio lights gleamed with an almost electric intensity, setting the stage for what many had predicted would be a fiery clash between two prominent figures. Robert De Niro, the legendary actor known for his fierce opinions and commanding presence, and Bill Maher, the unapologetically blunt political commentator famed for pushing boundaries. From the moment they took their seats opposite each other, the tension was palpable. The audience held its breath. What was about to unfold would not just be another televised debate. It would become a defining moment of raw emotion and sharp intellect. The topic at hand was one that has long divided audiences and commentators alike: the role of free speech versus responsible discourse in today's polarized media landscape. Was there a line that should never be crossed, even in comedy or political commentary? How far could one push before it became harmful rather than helpful? These questions hung in the air as the moderator gave the floor to Bill Maher, who launched into a provocative statement, criticizing what he called the oversensitivity gripping public discourse. Maher's words were blunt, cutting right through the fabric of political correctness. But just as he seemed to be gaining momentum, De Niro leaned forward, his eyes blazing with intensity. "You talk about free speech, but what about respect?" De Niro challenged. "When does it become bullying? When does it become hate disguised as humor?" The crowd erupted into murmurs, sensing the rising heat between the two. Maher, never one to back down, fired back with a sharp retort, questioning whether De Niro was advocating for censorship. "Are you saying we should silence people who offend?" he asked, the edge in his voice unmistakable. The exchange grew more charged, each question and counterpoint digging deeper into the cultural wounds of a divided nation. Was comedy still a safe place for truth, or had it become a battlefield? Could De Niro's passionate stance sway the millions watching, or would Maher's sharp wit prevail once again? As the debate escalated, viewers were left wondering, was this just about free speech, or was something more personal fueling this explosive confrontation? How far would these two titans push each other before it reached a breaking point? As the tension in the studio thickened, Robert De Niro took a moment to collect his thoughts, his usually composed demeanor giving way to a rare glimpse of genuine passion. The camera zoomed in on his face, the lines etched by years of experience, now illuminated by a fire that few had seen before. He wasn't just an actor playing a part. This was a man confronting a societal crisis he deeply cared about. The debate was no longer just a contest of ideas, but a battle over values that shaped the very fabric of public discourse. "You talk about free speech like it's an unlimited right," De Niro said, voice low but firm. "But freedom doesn't mean freedom to harm. When the words you use tear down someone's dignity, when jokes become weapons instead of bridges, where do you draw the line?" His words resonated, forcing the audience to reconsider their own views. Was there really a boundary that should never be crossed, even in the name of comedy or political debate? Bill Maher smirked, attempting to regain control of the narrative. "You're talking about respect, but sometimes the truth hurts," he replied sharply. "If we start policing speech, what's next? Who gets to decide what's acceptable? Isn't that the slippery slope to censorship?" His question hung in the air, a potent challenge to De Niro's perspective. The clash intensified, with each man refusing to yield. De Niro leaned closer, locking eyes with Maher. Slippery. Slope or not, we have to hold ourselves accountable, he insisted. If we lose our empathy, if we stop caring about the impact of our words, then we've lost something far worse than freedom. The studio audience erupted in applause, sensing that De Niro had touched on a universal truth. But Maher was far from finished. With a sharp pivot, Maher accused De Niro of hypocrisy, pointing to the actor's own controversial statements in the past. You claim to champion respect, yet you've thrown your own punches. How do you reconcile that? The accusation hit like a bombshell, the energy in the room shifting as De Niro's calm cracked. The crowd leaned in, waiting for De Niro's response. Would he crumble under pressure, or would he seize the moment to turn the tables? This was no ordinary debate anymore. It was a test of character, integrity, and the power of conviction. As viewers watched live, the question loomed: who would emerge victorious in this war of words? As the tension in the studio thickened, Robert De Niro's calm demeanor began to crack under the weight of Bill Maher's relentless provocations. The debate had shifted from a simple exchange of opinions into a battlefield where both men were fighting for dominance, their words loaded with deeper meanings and veiled threats. It was clear that this was no longer about politics or policy. It was a personal war. Robert's eyes narrowed as he fixed his gaze on Maher, his voice steady but heavy with an unmistakable edge. You think this is just some game to you, don't you? Throwing insults and accusations like they mean nothing. But every word has consequences, especially when millions are watching. The studio audience sat in stunned silence, feeling the weight of his statement. Maher smirked, undeterred. Come on, Robert. You're playing the celebrity card here. Nobody's scared of your threats. If you think you can bully me off this stage, you're sorely mistaken. His tone was mocking, designed to provoke a reaction. Or maybe you're just upset that I'm exposing your hypocrisy. At that moment, De Niro's expression shifted from controlled anger to outright fury. He slammed his fist on the desk, causing a noticeable jolt through the set. Hypocrisy? Let me remind you who's talking about hypocrisy. You parade around pretending to be the voice of reason while stabbing others in the back with every word you utter. You thrive on tearing people down, not lifting anyone up. What kind of legacy do you think you're leaving behind? Maher leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with defiance. A legacy of truth. Something you wouldn't understand, Robert. You're stuck in the past, clinging to old Hollywood ideals while the rest of us are trying to move forward. His jab wasn't just an insult, it was a direct attack on De Niro's entire career and worldview. The room was electric. Cameras zoomed in, capturing every flicker of emotion across their faces. The audience held its breath, sensing that the confrontation was reaching its boiling point. Would De Niro retreat or escalate? The answer came swiftly, without hesitation. De Niro leaned into the microphone, his voice low but deadly serious. You want to talk about moving forward? How about moving forward without dragging the country through the mud? How about using your platform to build bridges instead of burning them down? His words cut through the tension like a knife. People are tired of cynics like you who profit off division and contempt. It's time for a change. Maher's jaw tightened, his usual quick wit replaced by something less certain. For a fleeting second, the confident facade cracked, revealing a flicker of vulnerability. The spotlight had turned on him, and the pressure was mounting. But Maher wasn't ready to back down yet. Spare me the lecture, Robert. You're as much a part of the problem as anyone. Just because you put on a suit and talk about change doesn't mean you've earned the right to preach. He paused, then smirked. Again. Besides, if people really cared, they'd listen to me instead of falling for your Hollywood act. The verbal volley continued, each barb sharper than the last. Yet beneath the surface, an unspoken truth lingered. Their clash wasn't just about ideas. It was about identity, power, and who controlled the narrative in a nation grappling with division. Both men were fighters, shaped by different worlds, now locked in a public showdown that neither could afford to lose. As the segment neared its end, the host attempted to regain control, urging civility and focus. But the damage was done. The audience had witnessed something raw and unfiltered, a rare glimpse into the fracture lines running through culture and politics, embodied in two of its most outspoken figures. When the cameras finally cut away, the aftermath was already rippling through social media and news outlets. Clips of the heated exchange went viral, sparking debates and dividing opinions nationwide. Supporters of De Niro praised his courage, while fans of Maher applauded his sharp tongue and unwillingness to be intimidated. In the quiet moments after the storm, both men retreated to reflect on what had transpired. De Niro, known for his intensity and dedication to his craft, understood that this fight had tapped into something far larger than a simple argument. It was about confronting the toxic polarization that threatened to tear society apart. Maher, meanwhile, was left to reckon with the realization that his usual tactics might not be enough to silence voices demanding respect and change. The clash had forced both men to confront uncomfortable truths, not just about each other, but about themselves and the world they influenced. Would this explosive debate mark the beginning of a new chapter in their ongoing battle, or would it serve as a cautionary tale about the limits of confrontation in a fractured age? Only time would tell. The fallout from the explosive debate between Robert De Niro and Bill Maher sent shockwaves well beyond the studio walls. As social media erupted with clips and commentary, both men found themselves thrust into the eye of a cultural storm that neither had anticipated in full. The nation was divided, conversations sparked in living rooms and workplaces alike. But for De Niro and Maher, the personal stakes had never been higher. Behind closed doors, Robert De Niro reflected on the intensity of the confrontation. He was no stranger to conflict. His career was built on portraying complex characters who often wrestled with moral ambiguity and fierce convictions. Yet, this encounter had felt different. It wasn't a scripted scene or a carefully rehearsed role. It was raw, unscripted, and unforgiving. De Niro understood that his words had struck a chord not just with Maher, but with countless Americans hungry for authenticity and leadership. His team scrambled to manage the narrative, preparing statements and scheduling interviews to clarify his position. De Niro was determined to frame the debate as a call for unity rather than division. "This isn't about me versus Bill," he insisted during a rare press briefing. "It's about the kind of country we want to be. We cannot afford to be torn apart by cynicism and constant attack. We need to lift each other up." Meanwhile, Bill Maher was grappling with the backlash from his own camp. His usual supporters praised his sharp wit and fearless commentary, but even they acknowledged the unexpected ferocity with which De Niro had challenged him. Some questioned whether Maher had underestimated his opponent, or if his provocative style was beginning to wear thin with audiences tired of relentless negativity. Maher himself was uncharacteristically reflective. Known for his quick comebacks and biting humor, he found the debate had exposed vulnerabilities he rarely showed in public. Was his approach to discourse becoming outdated in a world craving more empathy and genuine connection? Could he adapt, or was he destined to remain a polarizing figure? In the days that followed, the media frenzy showed no signs of abating. Political commentators dissected every line, every glance exchanged on air. Talk shows and podcasts debated who had truly won the clash, while viewers debated fiercely in comment sections. The public's fascination with the confrontation was clear, but so too was the deeper concern it revealed about the state of dialogue in America. Amid the chaos, a surprising development emerged. A well-known mediator and advocate for civil discourse stepped forward, proposing a moderated roundtable discussion between De Niro and Maher. The idea was to move beyond the hostility and explore common ground, or at least foster a conversation rooted in respect rather than antagonism. Both men were initially hesitant. De Niro worried the gesture might be perceived as weakness, while Maher questioned whether such a forum could succeed without devolving back into acrimony. Yet, the prospect of shifting the narrative appealed to them both. If they could demonstrate that even the fiercest opponents could engage constructively, it might offer a powerful example to a divided audience. As preparations began for the roundtable, tensions remained high. Advisors and producers worked tirelessly to set the tone and format, emphasizing honesty and openness. The stakes were enormous, not just for De Niro and Maher, but for everyone watching. Could two of the most outspoken public figures find a way to bridge their divide? The night of the roundtable arrived, broadcast live to millions. From the moment the cameras rolled, it was clear this was no ordinary exchange. The atmosphere was charged, but also cautiously hopeful. De Niro and Maher took their seats across from each other, the weight of the recent clash palpable but tempered by a shared understanding that something had to change. De Niro opened the conversation with a direct appeal. "We've spent too long tearing each other apart. What if we tried to listen, really listen, instead of just waiting for our turn to speak?" His voice was steady, sincere. "That's how progress begins." Maher nodded slowly. "Maybe you're right. Maybe I've been so focused on being right, on calling out what's wrong, that I forgot how to build something better." He paused, then added with a rare humility, "This isn't easy for me. I'm used to being the guy with all the answers." The exchange that followed was tentative but genuine. They discussed not just politics, but the broader challenges facing society: polarization, misinformation, and the erosion of trust. For the first time, the conversation felt less like a battle and more like an attempt at understanding. Viewers at home were captivated. Social media buzzed with praise for the unexpected tone, with many expressing hope that this could mark a turning point. Could two icons of public discourse, long seen as adversaries, set an example for how to engage respectfully amid deep differences? As the roundtable concluded, both men shared final thoughts. De Niro emphasized the importance of empathy, while Maher acknowledged the need for balance between critique and compassion. The cameras faded out on a moment of mutual respect, a fragile but promising step toward healing. Yet beneath the surface, questions lingered. Was this new approach sustainable? Could it survive the pressures of media and politics? Or would old habits and divisions soon pull them back into conflict? The story of Robert De Niro and Bill Maher's clash and the surprising aftermath continued to unfold, reflecting the broader struggles and hopes of a society searching for its path forward. As the broadcast faded to black and the applause from the live studio audience subsided, Robert De Niro and Bill Maher sat back, their expressions a complex blend of relief, exhaustion, and cautious optimism. The moment they had shared was unlike anything either man had experienced in their decades of public life. A raw and unfiltered glimpse of possibility amid a cultural landscape often defined by division and discord. The Round Table had not erased all differences, nor had it solved the deep political and social fractures that challenged the nation. But it had offered something far more valuable, a demonstration that even the most vocal opponents could set aside ego and rancor, if only, for a moment, to listen and engage with genuine respect. That message resonated widely and deeply, inspiring a surge of conversations about the nature of dialogue, empathy, and the power of human connection. For Robert De Niro, the experience reaffirmed his belief in the importance of courage. Courage, not only to speak out against injustice and hypocrisy, but to be vulnerable enough to seek common ground. He returned to his public appearances with a renewed sense of purpose, urging others to embrace the difficult work of honest conversation. "It's not about winning," he told an interviewer days later. "It's about understanding. We have to be brave enough to try." Bill Maher, too, emerged changed. The debate and its aftermath prompted him to rethink his approach to public discourse. While his sharp wit and incisive critique remained, there was a new layer of humility and openness that softened his public persona. He began to advocate for more nuanced discussions, recognizing that his role was not just to challenge, but to build bridges where possible. "I'm learning every day," he admitted in a candid moment. "It's never too late to change." The public response was equally transformative. Audiences who had previously been entrenched in echo chambers found themselves drawn to the rare example of civility. Schools and community groups organized viewing parties and discussions centered on the round table, using it as a springboard to explore how to navigate disagreement in constructive ways. Media outlets praised the dialogue as a beacon of hope in a fraught era. Yet, the story was not without its critics. Some dismissed the round table as a fleeting spectacle, a carefully staged event unlikely to shift entrenched attitudes. Others worried that the call for empathy might be exploited to silence legitimate dissent. These concerns underscored the complexity of the challenge ahead, reminding everyone that true change required ongoing effort, not just a single moment of goodwill. Still, the impact was undeniable. The clash between Robert De Niro and Bill Maher had transcended mere controversy to spark a meaningful conversation about the fabric of American society. It posed essential questions. How do we reconcile deep-seated differences? Can we embrace discomfort in pursuit of understanding? And ultimately, what kind of legacy do we want to leave for future generations? In the weeks that followed, De Niro and Maher maintained a tenuous but respectful rapport, occasionally exchanging public statements that reflected a shared commitment to dialogue. Their journey from adversaries to reluctant allies became a touchstone for those yearning for a more thoughtful and compassionate public discourse. As the story drew to a close, it left viewers with a sense of cautious hope. The road ahead was uncertain, and the forces of division remained powerful. But the encounter between these two giants of culture and commentary had revealed that even in the most polarized times, the possibility of connection endured. This was more than just a televised debate. It was a call to action, an invitation to every person watching to reconsider how they engage with difference, to choose empathy over anger, and to believe in the power of conversation to heal. And in that invitation lay the true triumph of the moment.